90.3 FM. We're 14 days into the month of January, and you're tuned into the Avalanche, a special presentation of CKUT's Community News Department. The Avalanche seeks to cover issues affecting those with disabilities. On today's show, we'll be joined live by Kathy Inouye from Project Genesis about the recent cuts to welfare in Quebec and their possible impacts. Then we'll look at a recent program of CBC, the current, and how they use an ASL interpreter to bring the program to audiences in the deaf community. The current recently covered the documentary Def Jam, a film about deaf musicians. All that plus your weather report and more. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Avalanche, an initiative of the West Montreal Readaptation Centre, a special edition of CKUT's community news program, Off the Hour, where all abilities are welcome. If you'd like to get involved, call 514-448-4041, extension 6788, or email news@ckut.ca.
Okay, so now I'll fade this, and then we'll just go to a station ID, and then when we come back on, we have Kathy on the phone. Okay, here. You probably don't want to have that up yet until we start. So. So, 15 seconds.
That is incorrect. The answer is CKUT903F.
3 seconds.
Welcome to the Avalanche. Presently, the off the hour here on CKUT. Right now, we're going to do a live interview with Kathy Inouye at Project Genesis about the recent Quebec government cuts to welfare. So like that. So, hi, Kathy.
Hi.
Oh yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, yeah. Like that, can you explain me about what is, because we did interviews about Project Genesis. You could give a little Reader Digest info about it?
About the cuts or about Project Genesis?
Well, Project Genesis. Project Genesis.
Okay, so Project Genesis is a community organization, and we're in Côte-des-Neiges. We've been around since 1977, and we give people information about their rights as tenants, about different government programs such as welfare and old age pensions and family allowances. So we have we do about 10,000 interventions every year with people who come into our drop-in service, and we also do community organizing. We're an anti-poverty organization.
Okay, can you talk about the cuts? What's happening and what all the welfare cuts that are happening?
Sure. Well, there has been some cuts that have already taken place that happened at the end of summer and in the fall. So one of those cuts was they removed something called the Back to Work supplement. It was $500 people on welfare used to get once they had found a job, so to help them transition from welfare into the workforce, so they got rid of that program. They've also cut funding to a program for youth called Avalanche January, and they're also really modifying how the youth employment services work, the Carrefour Jeunesse Emploi. And they also cut a program called Pass Action, which was a program that allowed people on welfare and social solidarity to get an extra stipend each month if they did 20 hours of work in different settings, frequently community organizations. So those are some of the cuts that have already happened. And now they're announcing informally that they would like to do new cuts. So they haven't happened yet. but they are definitely in the works, and we're just waiting for the announcement. So those cuts are, do you want me to go through them? There's 6 of them. I could go through them one by one.
Yes, you could go through that step. I thought the Pal Action was not completely cut.
Completely, they reduced it. So it's harder to get into Pass Action, and they reduced the amount of money. So, because Pass Action is frequently people who use it. It might be to do volunteer work and to kind of get a sense of like belonging or something like that in a community organization, and a sense of like having a good job to go to every day. But now they're changing the criteria so that they want it to be only funding kind of jobs that actually lead to employment. So a lot of the current jobs in the Pass Action program, they're not really designed to lead to employment. They're more designed to help people like really feel like they're contributing to society and that they're giving back. So that's one of the changes that's happening with the Pass Action program. As some of them are quite technical. One of them, which one should I start with? The one I will start with is what they call if you are running a boarding house. Okay, so they have this thing now where once you have more than 3 rooms rented out in your apartment, or 3 rooms or more, then they consider you to be running a boarding house, and then they reduce your welfare check by quite a bit because that's income. So they drastically cut your welfare check, but they're going to bring that down to just 2 rooms. So how that impacts is actually people who have roommates. When they talk about this like boarding house idea, it's not that uncommon for just one person to be on the lease. So if you have 2 roommates and you're the only one on the lease, then they may consider you to be running a boarding house, and then they're going to count all that money that your roommates give to your landlord for their rent. They're going to count that as your personal income, and then they would drastically reduce your welfare check. So that's a really bad thing because the welfare is so low already, and so is social solidarity, that it's really hard to be able to live in a 3.5. So there's a lot of people that have a lot of roommates. At Project Genesis, we frequently see this situation when it's an older person who is living with their adult children. So if you're an older person and you have 2 adult children living with you, they might consider that person to be running a boarding house. And in fact, we've actually seen that already. People have gotten debts to welfare because welfare said they should have been asking for rent money from their adult children, but they weren't. So they assigned them debts for money that they should have been collecting but never had been. So that's one change. I'll just go through maybe 2 of the other changes. Another change is that they are also going to, they want to reduce the amount of time that someone can be outside of Quebec to 15 days. So currently, if you're in Quebec for 1 day out of the calendar month, then you're considered to have residence in Quebec, and so then you can have a welfare check. And so what this would mean is that for people who were out of the province for more than 15 days, they would consider to have lost their residency, and they would lose their right to their check. So we see this most frequently with people who need to go to funerals or to weddings overseas if their family lives far away. They frequently will come into Project Genesis and they'll ask us how long can they go for, one of their parents is sick, and so we tell them, well, if you stay in for 1 day out of the calendar month, you'll be okay, but then with this change, it would only be 15 days, which we think is very little, given, especially if you live very far away, and it maybe you might not have seen your family for many years. Another cut that they're proposing is something involving, and this is a little bit unclear, but limiting people's ability to work while they're on welfare and keep their paycheck. So currently, if you're on welfare, you're allowed to work up to $200, and you get to keep it per month. And then every dollar over $200 you make, they take away from you. If you're on social solidarity, it's only $100. So what they want to do is, it's not really clear in any of the articles or rumors that we've read, but they want to somehow limit that amount for people who they assume have made some kind of false declaration to welfare. So one reason why that's so troubling is because people who have been found to make false declarations to the welfare system, frequently it's, first of all, it's just an error of good faith. It's the welfare system is extremely complicated. A lot of people can't understand it. And then what they do is they actually reduce your welfare check already by $56, $112, $224. So already you're getting way less money. And then secondly, now what they appear to be proposing is that you wouldn't even be allowed to work at all to make up the money. So I don't know how they're expecting people to survive if they're only getting $400 a month and that's their only income and they don't have any other possibility of getting any other income.
Okay.
So those are three of the big changes that they're proposing. There are some other smaller changes. If you want, I could go through those as well.
Kathy, another thing also too is like you were talking about welfare, like different things like that. So I'd like you to explain about like the different types of welfare, because I'm on social assistant, I have a disability, and like are you talking about more like people are on like on the welfare are able to get jobs, people who are minor to get jobs, or like that's okay?
So it's all, in some ways, it's all the same program. The Last Resort Financial Assistance is the name of the big program. And so that includes people who are on the base rate, which is $616 a month. Then people who have what they call like temporary limitations to working. So these are people who are making, I believe, around $737 a month. And then the other category is the social solidarity people. Like you're getting a check for social solidarity. So these are the people they consider can't work for whatever reason permanently. So those people are making $937. So it seems like it's hard to know. There's not enough details. In the media, they keep referring to welfare, which seems to indicate it would be for the people who are supposedly able to work or only have temporary limitations preventing them from working. But in reality, I'm not sure how they're going to make an exception for people on social solidarity. So given that right now it's rumors, we don't know how much it would impact people who are on social solidarity right now.
Okay. Like another thing too, like you were saying, like people are calling it welfare, so that's not the real name.
Complicated thing. There's like social assistance, welfare, last resort financial assistance, social solidarity. There's a lot of terms for it. Yeah.
Okay.
We prefer to call it welfare in general, because we really believe that everybody should be able to make it to the end of the month and be able to live in dignity. So whether you have been diagnosed with a disability that prevents you from working 100%, or whether you're someone who has been laid off work, you ran out of VI benefits, you still can't find work, both of these people should be able to still have food in the fridge at the end of the month. But currently, the way the system works, I mean, the benefits are so low for everyone, including for social solidarity, that everybody is really struggling to get by.
My question is like a couple years back, Harper cut the organization that watches people, all the welfare organizations cost thing. I'd like to hear your opinion on what if this is really affecting our cutbacks.
You mean the National Council on Welfare? Harper's done a lot of cuts for sure. One thing he cut was the National Council on Welfare. They used to put out these amazing welfare reports every year, and they would compare all the different provinces and the welfare rates they had. And so, like the last report the National Council on Welfare put out was called Making Sense, the Sense of Sense, basically. And it said that if you were just to give people enough money to live on in dignity, the government would save so much money. They would save like twice as much money because people wouldn't be going to the hospital all the time. They wouldn't be getting sick all the time. They wouldn't be needing to drop out of school or whatever. There was all these other costs that the public has to pick up. So they published that, which basically just said you should just give people money, just give them the money so they can buy proper healthy food and pay the rent and not be stressed out. And you would save so much money. And then, of course, then they were cut. That organization no longer exists. The National Council on Welfare no longer exists.
Yeah, so, hi Kathy, this is Gary. So, what do you think is the alternative? Right now it seems like the further we go into this, like when we're talking about the Program Pass and that, and all the other cuts, seems like there is no alternative, no options, and no, like, the theory is, well, yes, we're allowed to live in dignity, but, we barely have 2 eggs left and a pint of milk at the end of the month, or we have to, put pressure on our family or some other resources to, live out the end of the month.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one thing that the government's been really good at is separating people that are living in poverty. So they make this division between people on social solidarity and then other people who are on welfare, and then right now they're really trying to pit precarious workers and low-wage workers against people on welfare. So the minister who's responsible for welfare and social solidarity has been saying, oh, well, we got to do these reforms because it has to be fair for people who are low-wage workers. And so I think this is just like completely ludicrous because what we need to do is build solidarity amongst all these people. So people who are low-wage workers, frequently they might end up on welfare, or maybe they're on welfare but they're also low-wage workers. A lot of people who are on the base rate of welfare really should be on social solidarity because they can't work. They do have a disability, but they're having trouble getting it diagnosed, or they can't fill out the forms. So if we could just build bridges between all these different movements, the movement of people with disabilities, the movement of people on welfare, and low-wage workers, precarious workers, if we were able to show some kind of united front, I think that would really help us. Because currently what they seem to do is they just chip away at all these different little pieces of welfare, and it's really, it's a terrible thing. It's really terrible.
Yeah, without letting anyone know, or any of the institutions that, like the agencies know that, like La Régie Régionale, that what actually going on, so that, and even, it becomes like these designations were already identified a long time ago, but they haven't been updated, and still the programs that were beneficials are now being either cut back, withdrawn, or totally become non-existent. So it's like a vicious circle that will see no end. How do you see? Do you think I'm out of the ballpark, or do you think I'm actually? That's the way I see it presently.
Yeah, I think you're really, you're right there. They're dismantling an entire social safety net that took generations to put in place, and it's really going to come back to affect all people in society, not just people that are currently living in poverty, not just people that are currently on social solidarity or currently working a minimum wage job, but like all of these things can happen to anyone. So we all need to work together on this. Yeah.
What do you see as an alternative to all work together? That means through the legal system, through actually, sort of having the various organizations sort of join forces and at least show a certain amount of displeasure or discomfort that already exists in terms of, hey, you can't get blood from a stone, and the more you cut back, instead of, if you don't give, various social or components a chance to, improve their lot in life, then, what that leads to.
Yeah. Well, they do seem to be really chasing after people living in poverty, trying to shake money out of them when they don't have any money. And then instead, there's all these solutions, these possible things they could do to get money. So, for example, there's something called the Coalition Main Rouge, or the Red Hand Coalition, it's sometimes called, and they have a lot of proposals about how they could change the tax system so that they would tax everybody more equitably, so then there would be money for the kinds of social programs that we need, like welfare and daycare and things like that. So, for example, a few years ago, they abolished a certain tax that banks and other financial institutions had to pay. If they were just to reinstate that, that would be like $600 million a year. The capital gains tax, this is something that only 1.5% of Quebecers the people who make over $150,000 a year, they are making the most benefit off of that tax, the crédit d'impôt. So that would be $738 million they could get just there. There's so many different measures they could use to try to equalize the tax system. But instead they are kind of manufacturing these tax cuts that they do in times of plenty, and then when things get lean, like now, then they suddenly turn and they attack social programs. They say it's social programs that are the problem. It's not the billions of dollars of tax cuts we gave out 5 years ago. really important. And one thing that's coming up is that coalition is they're planning a week of action towards the end of February. So it'd be really great to keep our eyes on that to see how that develops, to try to send a message, that this is a huge major problem, and the people of Quebec just refuse to take these kinds of cutbacks.
Kathy, another thing too is I heard you did an interview with the people of Radio Moon and all that, and other people too, and what could we do? Us, like, people are listening in, like, to turn around and say, hey, tell the government we should not cut, these people cannot work, and like that, and what's your suggestions to the people?
Well, one thing, anybody could get in contact with Project Genesis, or with me personally at Project Genesis. That's my email address is Kathy, CATHY, at genese.qc.ca, because there definitely will be actions coming up, and I could keep people up to date. But currently, the groups are trying to get together and decide on what those actions should be together. There's also, if people are generally interested in fighting austerity, and this is part of that. There's going to be a welcoming committee for Philippe Couillard, who's going to be in Montreal on February 3rd. So I can look up the date, and people could definitely go there. That's also organized by the Red Hand Coalition. So they want to denounce his government's entire approach towards cutting social programs and refusing basically to find fiscal solutions to this problem we find ourselves in now.
Yeah. Hi, Kath. Hi. Okay, thanks for talking with us. Yeah. Okay. Take care. Bye.
Study in Action is a yearly grassroots research conference designed to link students with community groups and organizers.
We're seeking submissions of all kinds from students and non-students alike, whether it be a paper, a zine, a workshop, or a radio project on social or environmental justice issues.
Yeah.
Submissions are due January 16th, and this year's conference will take place March 21st and 22nd.
Yeah, okay.
Go to cupidconcordia.org/studyinaction for more information.
Again, submissions are due January 16th. Check out Cooper Concordia, that's QPIRG Concordia.org/studyinaction for more information.
And welcome back to the Avalanche on CKUT 90.3 FM, and it is 5:30, almost 5:30, 5:26, and here's your weather from CKUT and the Weather Network. This evening, clear skies. Overnight, mainly clear with a low of -20. With the wind chill, it'll feel like -25. Tomorrow, Thursday, variable cloud, sunny with some cloudy periods with a high of -10. Friday, a few flurries with a high of -8. Saturday, a mix of sun and clouds and a high of -14. Scattered flurries on Sunday with a high of 0. Monday, a few flurries with a high of -11 with the wind chill. Yes, it'll be a very chilly -20. Tuesday, mainly sunny skies with a high of -8. And for next Wednesday, mainly sunny skies with a high of -5, and that is your weather from CKUT and the Weather Network. And now for your community announcements. CUNIT is thrilled to bring you Dr. Anthony Stewart to Montreal this month, and invite people to join them at one of his speaking events. Thursday, January 15th, a speaking event co-sponsored by McGill Student Housing and Hospitality Services. Dr. Stewart will speak at 7 p.m. in the West Lounge, Royal Victoria College, 3423 University. Friday, January 16th, Dr. Stewart will deliver a public lecture from 3 to 5 p.m. at McGill University's downtown campus, Arts Building Room W120. Saturday, January 17th, meet the author and book signing from 2 till 3:30 at the Paragraph Bookstore, 2220 McGill College Avenue. For more information, check out cuni/t.org. Friday, January 16th is CKUT's annual Arts Birthday Bash fundraiser. It'll take place at the Brasserie Beaubien, located at 73 Beaubien East, and will feature join CKUT Radio and friends at our annual Arts Birthday Bash fundraiser with CKUT circuit workshop and performances by Wicklow, Skin Tone, Saxon Drum, featuring A.P. Bergman on vocals, Nutsack, and the unforgettable styles of DJ Ritzy T-Pelts, taking us to the end of the night, plus birthday cake, futuristic prognosis, and surprising art everywhere. Show starts at 10 p.m. and doors open at 9. This is a CKUT fundraiser, $7 to $10 at the Brasserie Beaubien, located at 73 Beaubien East. Monday, January 19th at 5:30 is in the Islamic Studies Library at McGill. Join in a talk about fictional book Mornings in Jenin is a sweeping, heart-wrenching historical saga about 4 generations of the Abelia family. The novel follows the family from the displacements from the Einhood village in 1948 through love and loss over decades of life in Palestine and the diaspora. The book reading will be used use this opportunity to create a broader awareness and understanding of Palestinian history and the struggle for self-determination. Everyone is encouraged to read the book and come back for further discussion on the 29th. The space is wheelchair accessible via the campus door entrance, accessible washrooms located in the basement. McGill's Islamic Studies Library is located at 3485 McTavish Street East. And those are your community announcements.
Watch his hands. They can dance, they can sing, they can dance, they can watch his hands. They can dance, they can sing, they can dance, they can chicken. You say I'm a chicken, avoiding corporate positions, making decisions. You be a musician, maybe television, make a living, run his words spilled. Watch his hands. They can dance, they can sing, they can dance, they can watch his hands. They can dance, they can sing, they can dance, they can. Looked at your lips and you asked what's wrong with our lives. You go the short, across the short bus to school. And it's coach and needed love. I made it out of Leicester High School. And then I made it out of RIT. Most of the kids I rode the bus with never saw a teen. I hope they look it down. I dedicate this song to them. I hope you look it down. I dedicate this song. I hope you look it down. Under them, I hope they look it down. I know that they be proud. Watch his hands. They can dance, they can sing, they can dance, they can watch his hands. They can dance, they can sing, they can dance, they can.
Is this a video? Oh, okay. I was wondering what that actually.
Lucky, I know. 'Cause lucky said took us audition in front of the best measure of success. May not be happiness. That's the feelings. Never asked if you don't turn all. Maybe you turn a knob. Maybe keep falling down. I've got to ride this out. Maybe keep falling down. It's now or never now. Maybe keep falling down. Maybe I'll pay the rent for someone else someday. Watch his hands. They can dance, they can sing, they can dance, they can watch his hands. They can dance, they can sing, they can dance, they can watch his hands. They can sing, they can sing, they can sing. Watch his hands. They can sing, they can sing, they can sing.
That was a song called Watch These Hands by deaf rapper Sean Forbes. And Sean Forbes is one of the deaf musicians who is featured in a documentary called Def Jam, which the CBC recently ran a special episode about, where they interviewed the creator of the documentary. And in the documentary, there's several different musicians who are featured. So Sean Forbes is one of them. And we'll be posting the music video of the song that you just heard on the website, on the CKT News website, along with the video for this show. And so the documentary was made by a freelance artist named Willow Yamauchi, who is deaf in one ear, and she made this documentary after her own struggles trying to make music, to be a musician, and sort of what that was like in terms of being deaf in one ear. And so she put together this. It's short. It's about a 15-minute documentary, and she has an interview with Sean Forbes. She also interviews percussionist Evelyn Glennie, who performed in the 2012 Olympic opening ceremonies, as well as Janet Weil, who teaches music to deaf children. And so the CBC featured this documentary last week, I believe it was January 5th. You can see the video on the CBC website. And it's interesting because the CBC said that for them it was groundbreaking. So that was the first time that they had done an American Sign Language, so an ASL video at the same time as they were broadcasting. And so that's pretty similar to what we've been doing here on the Avalanche. And so we thought that it would be cool to talk about how this project came to be, because since we've been doing these ASL shows, we haven't really had a chance to talk about that. So Steph, do you wanna explain a bit about that? How this hand signals came to be part of Avalanche?
I could just say one thing about it. It all started from an interview with from Seeing Voices and like that, and I was doing an interview about ASL, doing a show, and
Can I explain what Seeing Voices is?
No problem.
So Seeing Voices Montreal is an organization of deaf and hearing people who work together to put on shows. So it's a theater organization, and last year they put on a version of Deaf Snow White, and coming up this year they're going to be putting on a version of The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, they're doing a show about the Little Mermaid. So I was doing this interview with the two directors of that, and also I did another interview with one of the director with the people on Help on Earth. That's another radio show at CKET, which is talks about health issues, and I was there to help out with the interview, and I was trying to figure out how could I bring my show to the deaf community. I couldn't try to figure out like the way to do it, and then I got this brilliant idea to hire an interpreter to do ASL, American Sign Language, and to give to do it and put on video stream through the web and talking to people. I talked to a couple of people in the deaf community who were a little excited about it, and I talked to people they turn around and they're shocked how you could do that. And then to hear CBC The Current did it and call it groundbreaking, and I applaud them because I think it should have been mainstream radio should have started this a long time ago. I think some stations should have this too, and open up the radio to people like news and all that, because there's a lot of good groundbreaking news from the radio.
The Avalanche, yeah, because the Avalanche does so much different stuff in terms of thinking and talking about what it means to make radio accessible, and especially because it's a show run by folks with disabilities and about disability stuff, so thinking about how doing ASL on the radio when we've been doing these Avalanche shows is another kind of accessibility or something we're adding. So do you want to talk about that?
Another thing too is we're just a small community radio station. We made a fundraiser. We raised $2,000 in Indiegogo, and we got another grant from McGill, the Mary H. grant, which we got to help the fund to get this all to like that. And now we got to figure out how to get more money to do this, because this money is gonna run out. And then we're people with disabilities. Like Kevin is a person with a disability. So you want to explain what you have?
Yeah, thanks, Steph. Well, I have short-term memory problems, and it's hard for me to remember things, and I have a lot of things that I use. I use my cell phone, and I write myself notes quite often, so it's quite hard for me to remember things off the top of my head.
Yeah. And also we got Gary here is in the wheel. He just wants to explain you. I'm sorry, Gary. I shouldn't be talking for you.
Okay, it's all right. Well, for me, it depends what you want me to say about my disability. Well, first of all, I like to add to the ASL. It's just another way in which you can, talk about the principle of inclusion and how, it's important to cover all types of disabilities and limitations.
And that's what the Avalanche is about. It's all different disabilities. Like we had a guy was teching the show, was blind and was doing blind. I should say visually impaired. Sorry, like that. And I think that's the reason why we want ASL. Like that. And we should cover more stories about that too.
Yeah, and something that's cool I think about how ASL can make, about how having interpretation at the same time that we're doing the show, that can help make radio accessible to deaf folks is it can be talked about in terms of accessibility and just in terms of radio accessibility too, because there's, I think, without making too many generalizations, there's lots of deaf people who don't necessarily identify as having a disability, they just identify as deaf, and I think there are certainly deaf people who also identify as having a disability. And so it's cool that this is just something that makes it accessible and people can think about it in whatever way, whether they identify as having a disability or not if they're deaf.
And like another thing too, what about the Avalanche too is it's like you're hearing from people with art disabilities. You're not hearing from a doctor talking about it, or a reporter don't know what they're saying about. And like, I don't know if Gary, you have opinions about that?
Well, my opinion is, as you well know by the topic that we covered previously, doctors are supposed to be aware of what particular situations are. However, that does not mean that they're capable of making decisions based on the models that are currently being used, since, it's not only the medical model that should be considered, and that is probably why, one of the reasons that there's so many changes that are coming. Like, I'm not gonna get into the logistics of the number 10 law, but it's, and then when you have the health minister and the person in charge and the ministry itself, person has potential, he or she is a doctor, and yet, particularly aims at making changes with regards to people or limited mobility and or the poor, and instead of focusing on providing money or opportunities in terms of education and social awareness to provide, a little bit of hope and support to be able to get yourself, from one point to another in terms of your own, and give yourself a chance to, at least if you can't attain a certain amount of level of personal, ambition or whatever, then, you should be able to live at a certain level in your life in which you have what is called the basics. And I think that and I'm surprised, and I'm even flabbergasted that even in 2015 that these kind of things happen. But I also see that in the universities and everything else, there are young people in their 20s and 30s that are getting educated, and there's going to be a point where some of these problems are going to be dealt with in a particular way, and maybe a little bit more human. It's just that the old guard is so stubborn, and they also equate everything to money and the bottom line, and I think
Okay.
that's in
And
itself is wrong.
another thing too is to talk about this ASL interpretation. My goal is that I go every year to the National Campus Community Radio Association, which they have a conference every year with a bunch of community radio and campus radio, and I want to do a presentation about this so we could get this across Canada too.
Yeah, that would be super cool to bring it to the NCRA. When you were originally talking to Jack from Seeing Voices, was there specific kinds of stuff that he, any tips or kind of like things that he told you might be useful or important to keep in mind when making ASL shows for the radio?
Not really. He was really excited about it. He gave me some things. He kindly answered my question because I was trying to say hearing impaired, and he told me it's alright to say deaf, which I did not know about. Another thing too, he was telling me, like, when we did his interview, it was like the way he watches music, he liked to watch dancing, and like my idea maybe sometime if we do these ASL interpretation, we could put a lot of videos and like that, because they like to watch dance and things like that.
What were some of the other questions that you asked Jack when you were interviewing him?
I don't know. It was a while back, and it was the interview of with this other show there, Health on Earth.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. So it was specific. You weren't just spending most of that interview asking him about making radio with ASL videos.
Not really, and we're still learning, and like
Yeah.
if people want to give opinions or things about what we could do better, I gladly welcome. You could write an email. It's avalanche@ckut.ca. We'll all welcome your comments and like that.
Yeah. Maybe if we have, like, can you think of any specific questions we would want to ask, or any specific kinds of feedback that we might want to get from any deaf folks who are watching this video, or who might watch it at some point?
Yeah, I think it would be nice to get feedback about it and like that, and like see what they would like much more better. Maybe what interviews they'll be interested in. It has to be with stuff with disability, because this is our mandate, like that. Set like we'll welcome all that feedback, and also like things like that. And maybe if people have ideas, having more funds and how we could get more money to keep this going. You got something to say?
Yeah, I apologize, but I'm about to say, we're sort of asking the deaf community to give us a hand and give us some feedback. It'd be interesting, like we're interested in knowing what you think. This is a very great idea that Stefan had, and we proposed it, and it's working out. And so, we urge you to at least, as in the most succinct and clear way as you can, just tell us how it has improved or how it has made a difference in a particular way, in that at least, if you have to talk about inclusion and all of that, it's like, I think it's very unique in that we attempted to not leave anybody out of, our group, and include as many people as we could.
Yeah.
So it's, what we're asking is just, for purposes of reference and improving perhaps our show, we also welcome input of any kind that's particular to disabilities and various things that each of us have to confront every day in terms of limited mobility and barriers and such things.
Yeah. I want to ask Noah, what was the name of that guy we played a few minutes ago?
So the guy's name is Sean Forbes, and maybe we'll play one more song by him right
Yeah.
now.
I just want to say I was really interested. I was watching the video, and I hope they added it on to this thing. It was a really cool video, and I think I'm gonna post it on my Facebook and see the comments. I think that's really cool.
Cool,
Something
yeah.
like that.
I thought that was really amazing when we watched that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
So
people that want to see that video, we'll post it on the CKUT news site, along with the video with the ASL interpretation for this episode of Avalanche. And now we have one more song by Sean Forbes, and the song is called "We Interrupt This Program."
hey.
So actually, this is just the extra.
Yeah.
You get the theme.
Stick with the plan. Ready to rock and roll, baby? Let's take this record to the moon.
cue, camera one, we're live in 3, 2, 1.
Well, it's been the storm of the season. Heavy rain overnight caused...
The crew, which is known for interrupting newscasts while wearing presidential masks, interrupted the broadcast at WR.
Get on the floor and nobody move. Hey, you! Interrupt this program. I think it's worth you knowing that the world's exploding. Interrupt this program. Interrupt this broadcast. Every been moving too fast. Interrupt this program. Interrupt. Maybe this is just a reality check. A way for us to reconnect. Look inside prospectively. Examine things more carefully. Maybe
There is this thing, do you realize, there is this thing, do you realize, consciousness is affected. There is this thing on, there is this thing going on, do you realize how consciousness is affected.
And John? Great. That does it for this edition of the Avalanche, a special edition of Off the Hour. My name is Kevin, and I've been your co-host with Steph and Gary. And thank yous also due to all those who make educational and inspirational radio here at CKUT possible. Thanks to Liz, our sign language interpreter today. For more information on anything you've heard tonight, or if you'd like to participate or support news produced by and for the Montreal community, please contact the Avalanche at ckut.ca. Also you can call the CKUT Community News Department at 514-448-4041 extension 6788 or news@ckut.ca. Stay tuned, Hersey is on deck and coming up next. For the rest of the crew, this is Kevin saying we'll see you in 7. Kev, out.
Right.
You know what, in this town, you've got deaf people who work as interpreters. Who do
Oh, yeah?
between the French Sign Language and
Yeah,
like I'm
well,
doing
I was just
ASL.
gonna
Yeah, they're like booth
French
interpreters.
language.
And that would be very cool because that's a rare thing. They're really everybody across, they work across Canada from here in Montreal. They'll fly them out to Vancouver and yeah.
I actually have, I think, some options.
They must be mine.
Do you guys want to do that if I contact some people that
Thing, yeah.
Sure.
Being able to speak Japanese.
You would be able to film the interview and then you could put that, you know, like you could write the way you have your audio taped, you could videotape the actual interview in front of the microphones and yeah, that would be fantastic.
put captions.
Yes, oh yes, that would be great.
Liz, would you need?
It's getting 7,
Would you need-
6.
We're getting to the end of the show.
So
So
put
you're
the
gonna do
theme.
the theme? Okay.
Okay. You don't need to, because
There is this
it's
thing,
me.
Maybe we'll leave it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
there is this thing,
Yeah, we're gonna stop soon.
there is this thing on, there is this thing going on.
You ready?
Yeah, when you are.
There is this thing going.
And that does it for this edition of the Avalanche, a special edition of Off the Hour. My name is Kevin, and I've been in studio with Steph and Gary. Thanks to Steph for teching today. Thank yous also due to all those who make educational and inspirational radio here at CKUT possible. For more information on anything you've heard tonight, or if you would like to participate or support news produced by and for the Montreal community, please contact the Avalanche at ckut.ca or CKUT's Community News Department at 514-448-4041 extension 6788 or news@ckut.ca. Stay tuned. Hersey is on deck and coming up next for the rest of the crew.
It's Life in the Motherhood.
Life in the
No,
Mother-
No, it's the Owls.
The Owls.
Yeah.
The Owls are coming up
Old
next
Woman Life.
for For the rest of the crew, this is Kevin saying, we'll see you in 7. Avalanche out.
And cut.
That's it.
That's a wrap.